Vicky move it.
Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, staff. I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting for the town of Pelham for Monday, August 21st, 2017 to order. We will begin with the singing of the national anthem. I would ask Councillor Papp to lead us, and all who are able to rise.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you very much, Councillor Papp. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I want to say welcome back to Ms. Whittaker for joining us here at council. It's great to see you in that seat again as a member of the media, and also we have a new member of the media, Mr. Piccolo. So thanks very much for being here. We always appreciate Richard being here from Cogeco, and certainly appreciate that coverage, and know that our thoughts are with Wayne Campbell, who's recovering from some illness, so we wish him very well. Let's now begin the meeting. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Ribiak. Be it resolved that the agenda for the August 21st, 2017 regular meeting of council be adopted. Are there any changes to the agenda or amendments? There be none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. That is any conflicts of interest any members of council may have. Do any members have any conflicts?
No, Mr. Mayor. No.
Okay, can that be so noted that no members have any conflicts? Thank you. We do not have any hearings or presentations or delegations, nor a report from our regional councillor, so we're going straight into the adoption of the minutes. It's been moved by Councillor Ribiak, second by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. Minutes of our regular meeting of July 24th, 2017, and of our special council meeting minutes of August 10th, 2017. Certainly want to thank Councillor Papp for chairing those meetings in my absence. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item is among those consent agenda items to be considered in block. So these are items of sort of standard or routine nature. Sometimes councillors like to lift items. Are there any items that members of council would like to lift for separate consideration? That is, if there's a special motion that you'd like to make other than what's recommended. Councillor Junkin.
9.3.1, the Paul Street Culvert.
Okay, thank you very much. Lifting that item. Any other councillors? Thank you. We'll move to that consideration of that immediately following this, but first we have something that's moved by yourself, Councillor Junkin, second by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved that the following consent agenda items be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved as applicable. 9.5 information correspondence item. There are several, and the recommendation is be it resolved that the following correspondence items be received for information. Niagara Region regarding the Niagara 2041 Fostering Environment for Economic Prosperity. Information. Information from Niagara Region regarding their 2018 budget planning. Information from Sylvia Jones, MPP, regarding her private member's bill numbered 141 regarding Sewage Bypass Reporting Act 2017. Information from the town of Archipelago regarding the reconsider the proposed changes under Bill 86 pertaining to out-of-court payments. Information from One Foundation with the Niagara Health System, the 2016-17 Donor Impact Report. A thank you note from Pelham Cares. Comments, two of them regarding the Hayes Street Arena lands, one from Jay Comfort and one from C. Botari. Committee minutes of, for information, we have Summerfest committee minutes of May 31st, June 7th, June 21st, 2017, also June 28th and July 5th, all leading up to a wonderful Summerfest, and also the minutes of the Pelham Seniors Advisory Committee of May 3rd and the Committee of Adjustment from May 6th, 2017. Questions or comments regarding any of those items? I would like to just draw some attention to the item 951, Niagara Region, regarding the 2041 Fostering an Environment for Economic Prosperity. This really does deal with the consideration of the Transportation Master Plan that Niagara Region is considering. I think this particular plan is open for comment until the 11th or something of September. So this does outline that. There were some last-minute changes where we did talk about Regional Road 20 and its function and study. It's suggested here that ultimately in the next 25 years that there might be a bypass around Smithville, and that's what's being considered. Also, the moving toward rapid transit, the idea that the region really does now, especially with GO coming and the region talking about intermunicipal transit, more than talking about intermunicipal transit, that we really do need to plan not only for something that was required years ago, but planning for the future. So I was pleased to move this motion regarding moving toward rapid transit in the region and at least planning for it. We also received some information about the Livingston Avenue extension, which I think Councillor Beatty spoke to, and so that's going to be sort of a point of consideration. One of the items that's not listed in this particular document is something that has been passed along to staff, and that is regarding intermunicipal transit. We want to make sure that Pelham is on the map, quite literally. In some of the presentations that they've had, I had to bang my shoe on the table at the region saying, we've been operating the system for a few years and we're not on the map. So I look forward to staff bringing something back, perhaps formally to council in September for our consideration and adding some comment to that, or if council so chooses. Mr. CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to build on what you said, Vicki Van Ravensway is representing the town of Pelham at the region with regards to transit, so she is our contact person.
Okay, great, thank you. Anything further on any of those items under the consent agenda? Thank you. There being none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Junkin, you lifted the item regarding the Paw Street culvert structure repair. I believe the motion was to receive.
Yes.
I'll turn it over to you, Councillor.
Well, and perhaps, Mr. Mayor, we're also discussing this on Committee of the Whole. I wonder if we should we be discussing more detail during Committee of the Whole, or should we indeed discuss it here?
It's not on. There are several other reports on Committee of the Whole, but this particular one.
Oh, okay, then my mistake. Okay,
I
excellent.
think the director brought it because it was. We had the presentation at our last council meeting,
Oh,
so
okay,
she brought it here.
okay, excellent.
But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so, of course, we all know that this has been a closure for some months now. The director has looked at some alternatives, no short-term solution, and we are hopefully getting to the point where we have to make other decisions. And I see one of the decisions, though, that was brought up was the need for more money for engineering. And although the director and I agree 99% of times on everything that comes before council, I must say I'm a little puzzled why we have to spend more money on a geotechnical investigation. They're down to 15 feet, and now they want to go a little more. And I just the reason those culverts, Mr. Mayor, failed it didn't have anything to do with them twisting or leaning. They were put in very well. The fact of the matter is that 40 years they rusted out. Their life is done, and they were put in correctly 40 years ago. They lasted 40 years, and there really hasn't been a geological event in the last 40 years that would change the soil that much, I don't think. I just wish, I don't know, I just can't quite get my head around the fact that we have to keep, go back and put another 5,000, 10,000 into the pot for what is probably a very straightforward, dig the culverts up, put down something else, and without having to go into the engineering aspect of it. I'd just like some clarity on that if we
Okay,
could.
thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you.
Perhaps the director can provide that clarity. Ms. Clemencio.
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure what clarity to provide above and beyond what's in the report. The bridge code requires that it be built to the standards that are listed regarding safety and longevity. So the longevity has a flexibility to it. We've waived that, and we're building something that lasts less than that's what's recommended by the federal government. But we still do have to build it safely to withstand the loads that would come from a road crossing. So a loaded school bus or dump truck or passenger vehicle. So in order to do that, the engineering firm doing the design has required that proper design needs proper geotech to know what you're founding it on. They've gone down 50 feet and they haven't been able to find anything of strength to know that the structure would be sound to take the loads that are predicted. So that said, they need to go further than they normally do in a regular geotech. They have to dig a little deeper until they hit some bedrock, and at that point they'll know what kind of foundation these culverts would need. As it's not a straightforward crossing, it's not a driveway culvert, it's not a farm crossing, it's a road crossing a very large span municipal drain. We have to follow the rules, and an engineer has to stamp those drawings, and we're just not able to bend on that.
Do you, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
So, so the request for more engineering to help solve the problem, then it isn't really a personal thing on your part. You're saying that in order to meet provincial guidelines, that that we have to have these engineering reports.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's our design consultant, the engineering firm we've hired to do that, so we don't have the capabilities in place to do this kind of civil engineering. They hired the consulting group that did the geotechnical study. The study recommends, the recommendation right out of that set of engineers says we just couldn't get something firm enough that we would be comfortable you putting the standard structure that you've proposed in. So they've asked, the engineering firm we've hired has asked to extend that geotechnical study so that they would feel comfortable designing the structure to have the foundation that it needs so that it would last its projected life.
I see.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillor?
Just, I don't know, I live out in the country. I've been a farmer my whole life, and when you have something that has lasted for 40 years, and I'm sure they didn't do geotechnical studies at that time. They just probably went down to what they thought was solid footing, put probably 2 feet of gravel on it, and then and put these culverts in, which they themselves have a huge bearing surface of, as you know, Andrea, I'm not telling you anything new, but it just, I don't know, it just blows my mind that that's something that was done 40 years ago without all these surveys and without having to dig down, whatever, 60, 70 feet, lasted its lifetime, and it just sort of irritates me that we have to, the rules now say that we have to spend, whatever, I don't know, what, if you don't mind, through you, Mr. Mayor, what are we at engineering cost on this project so far?
Ms.
Would
Clemencio,
have
if you
it?
could inform council.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the engineering design, I believe, was in the 30,000s, and then we paid I want to say 8 to 10,000 for the geotech. And this would add another 5 to 10,000 to that amount. So if I could respond to that, the Maple Street culvert replacement had a very similar geotech done, and a suitable foundation was found in the standard geotech study, so we haven't had to do anything special there. In fact, we've had some savings in the design, and as a result of doing the legwork, you're able to modify things to have a bit of savings. So Maple Street, the foundation is there, but down by the time we hit Poth and Weber area, it just wasn't suited. So it has failed. Maple failed. There are several other culverts that have failed due to corrosion, but Poth Street failed also because of a sinkhole that formed. So we can't confirm that it's not partially due to the foundation as well. It's got a different failure than the other bridges that we've seen. So that said, we just feel that this is the only option other than permanent closure. Considering that and keeping the municipal drain open as an open swale, that would be less money going forward than to replace the structure.
Thank you. And one last question?
Yes,
okay.
please.
Just the engineering study so far, Andrea, or Ms. Miko, is that based on the two culverts? Not a bridge as such, it's based on replacing the two culverts?
To all of
Through you,
council.
Mr. Mayor, yes, it is. The initial direction to them was that we're just doing uncoated steel culvert replacement like for like.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clemencio. Other questions? Councilor Ribbiak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the issue, aside from the need for the study, which I think has been established, at least to my satisfaction, I think the issue is how quickly can we get to it? Because obviously, reopening the road is what's important. So what are we looking at by way of timing if everything goes quickly, and is there something we can do to help move it along?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't, not sure I have an estimate that's accurate. If we were to give them the green light to continue with the geotechnical work, generally a few weeks, we could have a report back. The preliminary design is already complete. They would just be modifying the foundation that those culverts, piles really, that the culverts would be founded on. But the design is nearly done. It's just waiting on that confirmation. So with that, we would confirm drawings, and then we could go for tender. And with permission from the MPCA continue, we could still likely have something happen this year if we were aggressive.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. CEO, this was a topic, a little bit of discussion when we met with the parliamentary assistant to the Ministry of Transportation. They indicated that there was some wiggle room, I'll say, my language, not theirs, with some of this. I don't know if you want to comment on that or maybe research it further, or I don't know if you've done the research. Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the presentation was made, in fact, to the parliamentary assistant this past week at AMO, and the very issue that we're discussing tonight was raised with regards to bridges and the cost of bridges in rural areas. So when you look at a traffic count and you're seeing between 50 and 100 vehicles, yet you're required to spend $1 million+ to replace a bridge, the math doesn't make a lot of sense. And I understand the points that have been made. Where 50 years ago, this was not an issue. You just plopped a culvert in and it would last 50 years and no one blinked an eye. When we made this presentation to the ministry, our argument was that we should not have to be held to the highest of bridge standards in this type of context. The two contexts do not equal out. I mean, if it was a bridge going over the QEW, I could understand. A bridge in a rural area that has had traditionally a couple of culverts, what's the problem? The ministry did say, similar to what the director has mentioned, that you can deviate from the prescribed life cycle of a bridge, so you can build it to a lesser lifespan or life cycle than what the regulation says. However, the catch to that is the municipality assumes all of the liability. So we can build at a lesser standard, however, we are liable, and in today's litigious society, we get sued if a squirrel drops an acorn on someone's windshield, let alone something happens on a bridge, and we don't have that proper liability. The unfortunate part is that we're liable. So it's not that we're building it out of practicality, it's we're building it to protect ourselves from litigation is really what, at the end of the day, this is about.
And service, of course.
Service, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? So councillors, and maybe I'll turn to the director or the director of corporate services. So the motion is currently, be it resolved, the council receive the Public Works Update Report, Paw Street culvert failure for information, and yet the director has indicated that there's some further investigation required that might need some dollars. Can you clarify whether you need approval for that? Or has that already been within the envelope that we've approved?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we've found a way through some savings on the other bridge report to transfer some of the savings towards that geotech report.
Okay.
So granted, should we come back with a firm design and a construction estimate, we would still need to discuss options for funding the project further before we could go any further.
So we don't need approval to move the money from one capital project to another, I guess is my question.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we don't.
Okay, great, thank you. So without further, any further discussion, the motion is to receive it and look forward to receiving information back as quickly as possible. I will let council know that I did receive a couple of calls from the individual that presented to council last meeting. He continues to be interested in this and continue to, want this to move quickly forward. So, it has been moved by Councillor Junkin, second by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved that we receive this report for information, and we look forward to future updates. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Now we move to presentation of reports. I'll save my report that I normally give to our next meeting, and so now and I'm sure other members of council may have reports as well. So now staff reports requiring action. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King. Be it resolved, the council receive the request for proposal for development charges background study and bylaw 2017 report, and that staff be authorized to initiate a request for proposals to procure a development charge background study with the intent to initiate an updated development charge bylaw during the first quarter of 2018. Questions or comments?
Gotta do it.
Prudent to do, just in terms of the timing, Ms. Quinlan, intend to initiate updated development charge bylaw. What are you suggesting in terms of timing if we go out to this, or is that something that we'll get back when we do the RFP?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's something they'll get back to the RFP, but normally in discussion with the process, it's about a 6-month process to do the whole study and then the bylaw.
Okay, great, thank you very much. No other questions? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We look forward to that process starting. It's been moved by Councillor Riviak, second by Councillor King. Be it resolved that council receive the Community Planning and Development Report for information as it pertains to application file number SP0417 regarding the proposed development of 1298 Pelham Street. That's at the corner of Pelham and Pancake. And the council approved the bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a site plan agreement between the town of Pelham and Mr. and Mrs. Zorick. Questions, comments? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a hot potato ever since it came to Committee of Adjustment. I do have a couple of concerns in the fact that there already is one apartment on that, and now we're going to be building, or he proposes to build a second one on there. It is past the side yard and front yard and all that good stuff, but, if I have a house and I want to build a new house, I need permission to live in my old house till the new house is built, then I have to remove the old house. I can't have two houses on one property. Of course, the zoning may be a little different in that. My understanding is that the original approval was for 25 units on this, but if I was building my house and I had approval for 5,000 square foot of a house and chose to only build 2,200 square feet of house, could I build the rest of it later? I can't. Now, I'm looking for an explanation of why this is, we're going to allow two buildings on the same property, and I may have missed a memo in the past, and this may have been answered, but certainly it's something that's been on my mind and on a lot of people's minds who live in the neighborhood who have contacted me with some questions about it. So I just wonder if I can get some clarification on that.
Okay, certainly. Ms. Wiens.
Mr. Mayor, through you, so the zoning on this property is residential RM2, residential multiple 2. It does permit apartment dwellings, and it does not specify whether those are all in one building or in more than one building. There is a maximum density in terms of number of dwelling units that is permitted in this zoning, and I believe it is 65 units a hectare. This is less than that with the new building. So there is nothing in the zoning bylaw that specifies that all the units need to be within one building. Certainly when the previous approvals were given, there were a different understanding of the plans. Since that time, over the years, the ownership has changed, and the owners now are contemplating putting a second building on the property to add an additional 12 apartment units.
Thank you, Ms. Wiens. Councillor?
Okay, so it is passed all the smell tests and everything is,
It has,
Is-
yes, sorry, Mr. Mayor, through you,
Go ahead.
it has. They did need some variances to permit what they wanted to do. The variances actually, they could build this building and meet the bylaw requirements, but it would have been right out in front of the existing apartment, closer to the corner, where they've situated the dwelling and moved it a little off to the side, so you still have a view and sightline of the existing dwelling is a better from a locational perspective and functional perspective of the site. And so they actually needed some variances to accommodate the shifting of the dwelling, or of the building, the new building. But overall, it's been reviewed through the Committee of Adjustment with respect to the minor variances, and staff have also reviewed the site plan with respect to urban design elements, and the site servicing matters, and other matters with respect to access and circulation and so forth.
Thank you.
okay,
Councillor?
thanks for that explanation. Like I say, there's some questions that I had in my mind and some questions that people did bring up to me. I'm prepared now to give the answers if I'm asked again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had just one question, and I'm not sure that it wasn't answered, but just for clarity. Is there a specific bylaw controlling this particular property, and did it specify a maximum number of units on that property?
Wiens?
Mr. Mayor, through you, there is not a site-specific bylaw for this property. It is zoned under the residential multiple RM2, and the 65 units a hectare is the standard that's established in that zone category within the comprehensive zoning bylaw.
That answers my question.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
That is helpful. I thought it was a site-specific bylaw as well, so, okay, thank you. Councillor Durley, go ahead, sir.
Just one more question. We're currently looking at revising the bylaw. Is 65 per hectare something that is desirable, or should it be considered in the new bylaw to have some kind of an alteration to that?
Ms. Wiens?
Mr. Mayor, through you, the 65 units per hectare is certainly something that's appropriate for developments that are the 3 to 4 story range. When you're doing developments that are 5 or 6 or 8 stories, you'd be having a higher density number. So what we're looking for in the zoning bylaw, there might be differences between different scales of development, which would have a different density.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not sure if that answered the
Yeah.
question.
Sorry for going off on a
No, that's
tangent,
okay,
but
but
that's
it's
something that I...
something to keep in mind, so
Yes,
I'll
exactly.
suggest you keep that in mind for a discussion
Thank you.
this fall for the zoning bylaw. Anyone else on this particular project? I do say that, they're using a range of building materials. It looks nice, sort of, to what it is. They've tried to match and complement the area. It's an important corner in our community. And according to the site plan, which is what we're looking at now, it does appear to be a very nice, aesthetically pleasing structure. So, and it seems to function well as well. They're putting in this sort of this structure here, a gazebo type structure, as well, to kind of complement it and give it a bit more of a park-like setting. So it was contentious in the community during the Committee of Adjustment. Didn't come to council that way, and it did go to the Ontario Municipal Board, but was ultimately removed. So we wish them, I wish them well in terms of their construction. We're always hearing about the need for a range of housing types, and this can certainly meet that need. Unless there's any others, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. There's no unfinished business, no new business, so now we move to presentation consideration of bylaws. It's been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration of the following bylaw, do now read a first, second, and third time and do pass the same, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaw. There are 6, so bear with me. Bylaw 3904, 2017, being a bylaw to authorize the conveyance of part of a road allowance between lots 2 and 3, concession 1, being part 1 on reference plan 59R 15900. Bylaw 3905, being a bylaw to authorize the conveyance of part of a road allowance between lots 2 and 3, concession 1, being part 2 on reference plan 59R 15900. Bylaw 3906, being a bylaw to authorize the conveyance of parts of road allowance between lots 2 and 3, concession 1, being part 3 on reference plan 59R 15900. Bylaw 3907, being a bylaw to authorize the conveyance of part of the road allowance between lots 2 and 3, concession 1, being part 4 on reference plan 59R 15900. Bylaw 3908, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan agreement for the lands located at 1298 Pelham Street. That's the item we just discussed. And bylaw 3909, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 1136, 1987, as amended, for lands located on the east side of Lookout Street, municipally known as 1611 and 1613 Lookout Street, from a site-specific residential R1 211 zone to residential 1 R1 zone, and from agricultural A zone to residential 1 R1 zone, and a site-specific residential 1 R1 280 zone. Sorry, that was 280. Good thing we don't have to read all the bylaws, or at least I have to read all of them out loud. Any comments or questions on the bylaws? Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We do certainly read the bylaws, just not out loud. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King. Be it resolved, following bylaw be read a first, second, third time and passed, being a bylaw 3911, 2017, to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Pelham in its regular meeting held on the 21st day of August, 2017. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, second by Councillor King. Be it resolved, this regular meeting of council be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for Tuesday, September 5th, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. And it's a Tuesday because of the Labor Day holiday. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.